Hello, I'm Peter Lancett. Welcome to the Lancett Hypnosis podcast, where we'll be looking at all things related to trance work, transformation, and anything and everything that can help you change and transform your life to become the ideal you. Okay, so that's who we are, and now let's get this show on the road. Today we're going to talk about goals. We're coming towards the end of January. Lots of people will have made New Year's resolutions, and by now, towards the end of January, what date is it? The 28th today. About 80% to 90% of those have either failed completely or starting to crumble. It happens every year. The statistics are always there. Today, I have a guest with me, the fabulous Julie Grint. Julie works so hard to help people live natural lives, which make them healthy and allow them to be happy. It's a difficult gig, and Julie can do it so well. So welcome, Julie. Say hello.
Hello, Pete. Hello, everyone who's listening.
That's fantastic. It's really good to have you here, Julie, because otherwise I'd be talking to myself, wouldn't I? Anyway, let's talk about goals. What's the point of setting goals, do you think? Is there a need? Is there a necessity?
Absolutely. Setting goals is how we keep moving forward in life. And it's alchemy, Pete.
My word.
It's actually how we align with self-love. This is my perspective.
Hey, and I think that that's true, because if we ask ourselves, where do we want to be in life? Who do we want to be? And we can narrow that down to certain areas of life, or we can say in general. But if we do that and we aim for it and we reach it, we're in a state of bliss, near us, damn it. Do you not think?
Absolutely.
So I always look at goal setting in this way, rather than say, if somebody says, well, what do you want to be? I want to be happy. Great, that's a great goal, but how are you going to achieve that? What does that mean even? So usually and often we find ourselves looking at goals that once we start trying to achieve them, or we look at how we could achieve them, we realize that that's not for me. When I was very little, I wanted to be an astronaut. This is my age. The Gemini program was on. I'd seen some of the Mercury programs. So we're in the 1960s. And then even before I became an adult, even while I was still a child, I started realizing that, hang on, these are mostly naval jet fighter pilots. It's difficult. They are test pilots. They've done this, that, and the other. What does it mean to be a test pilot and a Navy pilot? Oh my God, the mathematics and the physics. And I started learning all these bits, and I thought, this is not for me. This is not a path. The goal would have been lovely. I would have loved to have been an astronaut, but thank God I wasn't. The danger of it, an Apollo one. But I realized that wasn't for me. The path to get there wasn't for me. And we'll talk about this. So it was that made it not really a true goal. So we'll talk about that in a bit, and other things that have happened. But then I found other goals, things that I wanted, and I have achieved them. I'll just let everybody know, and I think you've already know this, that I've lived an entire life without a career. I've never had a career. At my age, and I'm going to say now, I don't mind saying I'm 66. Well, I am this year. I'm 65 at the moment. But I probably worked for other people maybe 4.5 years in total.
Wow.
Everything else I've just done for myself. And lots and lots and lots and lots of different things. And I've ended up where I've always wanted to be.
I love that.
Financially secure. Don't need really any money. I've got a passive income. I own my own house. Everything's just fallen into place. And that's because even before I realized it, I was going on the right path to the goals that mattered to me. One of those goals was freedom. One of those goals, I realized later, was freedom. This is why I don't work for a company. I've never had a career.
And this is the thing. You're the evidence that we can choose to do the things that we love to do for us. And that is self-love.
Yeah.
That's living your life in alignment with how you want your life to be.
I will never claim that every minute of it has been brilliant.
Mm.
I've had downward projections in life, and these have typically been when I've made choices that weren't in alignment with where I wanted to be. If I look back on it, the responsibility is mine, and that's what's happened. But I've always found my way out. One of the things I've always told myself, and this is self-hypnosis, even from a child, now I look back on it, one of the things I've always said is, for me, it always works out. It literally always works out no matter what, and it always has. So even from a very young age, that has happened. When I was sitting in living in a bedsit in London, a scrappy little bedsit, when I first moved down there, I knew that wasn't where I was going to end up. I said, no, at least I've got a roof over my head. I'm down in the big smoke where I wanted to be, where all the opportunities are, and something great will happen. Well, within 3 months, I was working at Pinewood Movie Studios. I worked on Superman 2 and various other big projects that were there. And, this comes from allowing yourself to take a winding path. Don't always set a straight line and then find that it's difficult to hit a goal. Sometimes other opportunities arise that you think, wow, you know what, I'll have a look at that. And I did. Yeah. So, setting goals doesn't mean that it's going to be a straight line of steps. I think it's important that you allow yourself the freedom to listen to the opportunities that your unconscious mind is putting in your way, using your reticular activating system to make things work for you in your brain, the RAS. So yeah,
what would people need to there's a lot to it, and then there isn't a lot to it once you're in the habit of doing it and you know the process that works for you. But how would someone kind of make a start? What's the thing that they need to stop doing, if you like?
Okay, what you need to stop doing is trusting the conscious mind. And I'll explain why. In my introductory podcast, which is the previous one, that was explaining the difference between the conscious and unconscious mind. But if you follow just the conscious mind, you can find yourself in trouble. It doesn't have the ability to process enough information to give you everything you want. And it might contradict. It has too little understanding of the things. So the goal it thinks is good for you may not be the best goal for you. You might be on the right track, but you haven't thought enough ahead. It can't do that for you. And the unconscious mind will then step in and say, hang on, this isn't working. We don't want to do this. The real trouble is that we can have a goal, and let's say, I'll give you a great example if you don't mind. This won't take long. I nearly bankrupted myself once. The first time I came back to New Zealand, and I made some, wrong, incorrect choices that didn't work out for me, and lost loads of money. Lots. I still had my house. That was good, but I had to take out a tiny little mortgage, whereas I'd owned it, which had been a previous goal. And I thought, well, I knew some kids. I knew some people that had become freelance IT consultants and things. I thought, they're earning a fortune. They work for themselves. These are all in alignment with what I want. They're learning things, and they're going to different places. Each day is different for them, and so on. And so they made great money. They got to travel, met people. They were highly respected because they were doing something that most people think is like black magic. Most people, especially then. And we're not talking about home computing here. We're talking about banks of huge corporations and things like this. So, I thought, you know what? I'm going to become an IT freelancer and it'll give me those things. As soon as I did that, my reticular activating system was activated and I started seeing ads in the papers for training courses, this, that, and the other. And I found one where I could train to be a hardware engineer and they guaranteed that they'd find me a job at the end of it. It cost $3,000. I borrowed the $3,000. Bang, off I went and did it. And everything moved on from there, except the reality was a lot more mundane. It was. I did get to a point where I was, instead of working for somebody else, and I only did that for about 4 or 6 months, and I'd become an IT trainer, and God knows that's impossible. Literally at that point, I was only 1 page ahead of the training manual, ahead of the people that I was training. Literally, I was being sent, but I got to freelance it. The lady in the office said, you should do this freelancing, you'll make a lot more money. And she gave me the number of the freelance agency that the company I worked for used. And it went on from there. The guy, I phoned the guy and told him my qualifications, which were difficult. I was learning a lot. Microsoft systems engineer, MCSE, Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. And you had to have one on every project and every big project and so on. But I'd become a trainer because most people don't want to stand up and talk. That was great for me because that was part of my goal. I like being in front of other people. I like talking to other people. I like, I guess I like being the center of attention.
Who you?
Yeah, funny now, isn't it? So I was doing all of that stuff. And then I found this guy and he said, remember, at first I was trying to get out of the financial hole that I'd got into. I was being paid okay. But I phoned this agency up and I was talking to the guy and he heard my qualifications and he said, okay, I know the company you're working for. You've got to give a month's notice. I said, is there going to be much work out there for me if I go freelance? He said, well, just give me a second. I'm looking through. He said, I could keep you in work for the next 6 months and probably way longer because that's as far as our diary goes, 6 months. He says, you could work every single week. He says, in fact, in 4 weeks' time, if you give your notice in now, I can send you to Dublin and you can do a week's training course there. You can, I said, okay. I said, how much do I make on this? He said, well, £2,000 a week plus expenses. Is that okay? Jeepers creepers. Yes, it was okay. Within weeks, not only was I out of it, I'd bought a house in Spain. I had to borrow money to do it, but I'd bought another house in Spain and everything's going well, except I wasn't reaching my true desire. First of all, it was hellish having to learn. I wanted to learn new things. What I didn't want to do was be in a hotel room staying up till 2 a.m, trying to just memorize the next chapter of the training manual that I'd got to teach so that I didn't look like an idiot. There was all kinds of stresses involved. Yeah. I got some travel. I did end up being sent over Europe, but guess what? Out of the cities I was sent to, I didn't really see anything because, I was working all day and I was knackered all night. So I go to Iceland. I saw a lot there because the guy took me around. But I was, a lot of the time I was sent to the same places. And, Cardiff, week after week after week. Glasgow and Edinburgh, week after week after week. But Scotland was a lot nicer. But, it wasn't truly who I wanted to be. It wasn't. I hit that goal, but it wasn't making me feel happy inside. And in the end, I came out of it. So a true purpose. How do we find a true purpose, do you reckon?
Our goals kind of have to be squeaky clean. It's got to be something that we want, that it's not just going to benefit us, but benefit others in our lives as well. It's almost like it's bigger than us. I feel
you want to benefit others in your life. Not everybody will.
When we're in that,
see what I mean by that?
It's just kind of what you were saying a moment ago. That come from that choosing that goal because we think we're going to get the thing that we get from it is going to make us happy. That's the problem, because we're not allowing ourselves to have that experience now.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if I had said to my unconscious mind, okay, what I want to do is be financially free. I want to be free to do the things I want to do. I want to be respected. I want to live an exciting life. I want to learn new things, meet new people, go to new places. I could have asked my unconscious mind, how do I do that? You show me what I need to be doing to achieve that, and the steps I want. Suddenly it would go out. It would search for all the things that I could have done other than being an IT professional, which wasn't really my cup of tea. I only did it because I knew people were, getting a lot of money from doing it. And it would have come up with lots of other things. It always works out. So you've got to find your true purpose. I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to live an exciting life. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to help other people, which, being an IT pro, I was doing, and especially as a trainer, I was getting people to a state where they could actually improve their lot. It was those things were there, but I didn't really like the process to get to be one. And when I become like a great pro, and I reached the point where I didn't have to look in the books and this and the other. I did know it all. I still didn't have that feeling of like, this is who I really wanted to be.
And this is what people do all the time, isn't it? Like, especially like the typical New Year goals, the getting fit, the going to the gym. And it's like you already set yourself up for failure and disappointment because you don't want to really do it. You don't want to go through that process. And it's like you almost program yourself into believing that anytime you want to achieve the thing that you want, it's going to have to be painful and hard work and miserable. Where is the fun in that?
None, is there? And that's the horror of it. And yet there are ways of achieving that. See,
Exactly.
The true purpose doesn't always align with what your conscious mind has said. That's the place we want to be.
Oh, because that's the sensible part of us. So we think.
But what we do, I mean, we don't even pay attention to the idea that we've got this limitless resource called the unconscious mind. We tend to find it. There are lots of reasons why goals fail. Doubts are one of them that you've just mentioned. Doubting means that you've activated the gatekeeper. Oh, it won't work. This won't work. And guess what your unconscious mind does then? It says, oh, you're just telling me that this won't work. Tell you what, I won't bother with it. I'll carry on with something else. So I'm not going to get you there. You don't want it. You don't believe it's going to work for you. So what's the point me doing any work for you? And this literally is what happens. I know I'm talking about the conscious and unconscious mind as though they are people, entities.
But it's like a muscle. We could look at it like that, can't we? You either use it or lose it.
Yes, that's a really good phrase, isn't it? I mean, it is. This is a phrase that everybody uses these days. Use it or lose it, and you tend to do this. As soon as you've done all the good work to start to get to the goal, and a doubt comes in, what happens? You've got a message that says you can achieve this, but then you've got another message that says you can't achieve this, and they cancel each other out, and you end up stagnant. And you may plod on doing the steps, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
And that I think people recognize that a lot. There are other reasons. Now, I mentioned right at the start, we're going to talk about clean and dirty goals.
Yes, tell me about those, please.
To me, this is the most critical one, and it happens all the time. And because it happens in secret, we tend not to realize that it's happened at all. We just think of ourselves as failures, unworthy. Nothing ever works for me. I can't make anything work. Well, here you go. Internal conflicts are dirty goals. Now, when we've got those internal blocks, they tend to be conflicts between what you've decided that you want consciously that conflicts with what your unconscious mind wants. Remember, your unconscious mind has this huge blueprint of how you should be, who you should be, what you should be. And if you are programming it all the time. If you smoke, you've programmed it to tell you to smoke. It doesn't say, oh, that's unhealthy, because you've told it to do that. Your conscious mind is watching the TV, reading papers all the time and saying, oh my God, people are dying from smoking. But you've programmed the unconscious mind to tell you 20 times a day, go on, have a fag. And it's obviously latched on to other things. It said, oh, you're feeling stressful and you have a fag. You enjoy it, don't you? Okay, every time you feel stressed, that's when I'm going to come in and say, have a fag. And these things build up over time. It's difficult to then stop smoking. But, this is what happens. let's say you'd made this decision. You want to be trim and healthy and look good and feel good and everything else. And but suppose something had happened earlier in your life that consciously you've forgotten about. But for something, it's like the idea that slim and healthy people get picked on, or people are always like finding ways to try to put them down because they're jealous of them, or all these other things. And so your unconscious mind says, oh, instead of being slim and healthy, what I'm going to do is make sure that you're safe by allowing you to be fat. I dare say we shouldn't use words fat and things like that now, but I'm using it because that's what I mean. This is what happens: overweight, fat, whatever. So your unconscious mind has said it's safer to be fat. When your conscious mind says, okay, I'm going to come on this diet, I'm going to change my eating style, I'm going to go into ketosis, I'm going to do all of these things, and your unconscious mind, which has much more power than the conscious mind, I mean much more power, it turns around and says, not a chance, because it's saying like, I don't want you to be unsafe. You're telling me you want to be unsafe.
Yeah.
Not a chance. And the unconscious mind says, I'm going to look after you. I'm going to keep you nice and fat so you can be nice and healthy and happy. So everything you try, the unconscious mind will absolutely put a stop to it. So that's a dirty goal. When you've got a conscious goal that's in conflict with something. So you've got to really look at your true purpose, for one. You've got to understand that when things aren't working, you've got to actually ask yourself, sit down and say, okay, what's that feeling I'm getting? Why is this not? And you'll either get the words or you'll get a feeling, and then you've got to work that out. You've got to burn that out. And eventually you can do it. I mean, there are loads of techniques that we can use to do that. Logically, this doesn't make sense, does it? But the unconscious mind doesn't reason through the logic that the conscious mind does, and which is the one that we think is the one that really works. It doesn't. We can talk about it again. It doesn't understand or has no interest in grammar. If you say, don't drop that bowl of soup, all it hears is drop that bowl of soup. If you talk to a little child like that, it's walking in a room with a bowl full of liquid, and you go, don't drop that. There's a good chance that it will. If you say to that, wow, you're managing that really well. Now put it safely on the table, without spilling a drop. And you can do it. It probably will.
Yeah, this is so powerful, and everybody needs to hear this, Pete, because we program ourselves all of the time. I hear it all of the time. I'm always catching the women out that I work with who complain about their menopause brain. I'm like, sure. Yeah, and oh, don't forget to do this. No. Program yourself to remember. Yes.
That's the one. And it is easy to find positive language once you're aware that the negative language doesn't work.
Exactly.
Don't do will be ignored. Yeah. Do, and your unconscious mind finds ways of you doing it.
But as you've just beautifully explained, it's so much more than the language. It's so much more than just thinking positively, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely more. And really, you have to find your true purpose. What is it that I really want? I mean, supposing somebody said like, "Oh God, I want to be a professional footballer." How can the unconscious mind make me do that? I'm very small and spindly and weak, and I don't really have the talent for it. Can it do it? Well, possibly. It can, but why do you want to be a professional footballer? Oh, I want to be respected. I want to have the money. I want to be able to, be a role model for other people, and I want to be admired and all these things. Okay, well, you want all those things. What does it take to be a professional footballer? Well, I have to get up dead early in the morning. I have to do training. I have to do this, that, and the other. I can't go out for a drink with my mates because I've got to stay fit and healthy. And then I've got to, because I'm not really talented, I've got to find a different way of doing it. Kevin Keegan, by the way, years ago, 1970s, people used to use him as an example of this. They used to say, he is not like George Best. He can't use the ball like somebody like George Best. but he worked like a demon. And he worked and worked. And then the position that he played in, forward and midfield, he won the European Footballer of the Year. He had a massive career. But the work he must have had to put in to do it, terrifying. Whereas George Best used to go out and get drunk every night and then come on and score 3 goals the next morning. It's different, isn't it? For George Best, that was the goal. Probably. I don't know, and he got everything he wanted. He was going out with Miss World and all the rest of it.
That's a really valid point, though, Pete, because a lot of the time we compare, don't we? And we think, oh, well, I should be doing it like this, or this is the way we've been told that it's supposed to happen, and it takes us away from our real true driver. So when people are not sure what their purpose is this something that you help people with, help them?
Oh gosh, all the time. But you can do it yourself. You can sit there and you literally ask yourself, well, this goal that I want to aim for, if I achieve it, or when I achieve it, what does it give me? What do I get out of being that person? Then is that in alignment with what I really want? Because, as well as being, let's say you wanted to be a movie star, and this happens all the time. So, we can use this as a great example. You go to Hollywood, you make all those things, you go through the hell of it. Oh, my God, I've lived there. It's hell. It's hell on earth, working in that industry and especially out there. But people make it, and you make it, and you're an A-star. What do 90% of them then do? They hate the public coming up to them when they're out and about. They can't stand the paparazzi. They want to be left alone. All the rest of it, it's like, well, you bloody well knew that that's what was going to happen if you made it. They literally had, I'm going to say it now, a dirty goal. They've achieved it, but they're not enjoying it all. Some of them do, by the way, but we all know there's plenty of them, that really feel miserable about the fact that people come up to them for autographs, and then they're in the papers, what a miserable git this A-lister is, and it pushed away a small child that had just come up for an autograph. We get all these stories. We get them, and this is because what they've done is they've had a dirty goal, and they've managed to achieve it. But are they happy? No. Most people don't achieve their dirty goals, because in the end the unconscious mind steps in, like we said about the being slim and healthy. You find yourself opening the fridge door every night and snacking, overeating meals on your plate. I should eat less. Obviously I work with people who want to lose weight, and I use weight loss as the thing, but what I'm actually doing is a program where I want them to change their lifestyle. Excuse me. And I don't say that until they come to see me. And the first thing I'll do with hypnosis is dead easy. Okay, let's release that habit that you've got of eating snacks and at these various points in the day. Let's introduce the idea that you are allowed to leave food on your plate, or give yourself smaller portions. Learn over time to give yourself smaller portions. All of these things that can happen. I can do that in one session, no problem whatsoever. But then it's understanding the new lifestyle. Who is the new me? Is this who I really want to be? So you can do that. It's very, very difficult when people, you can see the conscious resistance to it all. You should leave some food on your plate. I want you to leave food on your plate every meal. And a group session that, and I've used it all the time, that I think it's Freddie Jacquin. It's either Freddie or Anthony that did, where you've heard it, haven't you? They're like, this woman got up and said, I think it's disgusting leaving food on your plate when there are starving children in the world. We've all been programmed with that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that started off as you can't leave food on your plate?
You can't leave the table until you finished your meal,
Because we were under rationing, Second World War, and then all through the 50s, near as damn it, for us in England and Britain. But when that changed, when rationing went out through the window, something else came in, and it was these poor starving children around the world. And this woman got up and said that, and Anthony or Freddie, whichever one it was, turned around and said, well, tell you what, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a photograph of yourself. He said like this woman was really overweight. He said, I want you to take a photograph of yourself, and I want you to send it to some starving child somewhere in the world. It doesn't matter where. You just send it to this child, and I want you to write on the back, I am sending this photo so that you will see that I am not wasting any food. And that's a shock. I use that in my sessions all the time because it is shock treatment. Let's face it. Wasting food isn't just about putting it in the rubbish bin. It's about putting it in this bin, in your mouth as well. That's a waste bin as well. You're wasting it. If you're eating like a portion that's really big enough for 2 people or whatever, then you're wasting food, aren't you? So, but we're programmed into doing this. What we've got to do is reprogram the unconscious mind to say, hang on, I know that you're trying to keep me safe, well protected, healthy, but I want you to change that blueprint. Now, self-hypnosis can do this. I mean, I teach all of this as part of a self-hypnosis program, and I always give clients self-hypnosis to take away with them when they come to see me. And I think, something that everybody that helps people could do. It's not that difficult to teach. I had thought that I was going to do that in this podcast, but if anybody was driving when they were listening to it, they'd end up in a ditch, wouldn't they? So I can't do it here. But there are certain ways that are so strong that take you so deep, so quickly that you'd be shocked at how easy it is to do. The other thing is when you're changing the blueprint, things that you've got to do, you've got to talk to your unconscious mind and tell it what you want. And in many ways, asking it questions is the best one. If your unconscious mind says, no, we're not doing that, but you want to do it, because the dirty goal has the unconscious mind, the example I gave, the unconscious mind says, no, I've got to keep you fat to be healthy. And you're saying, well, I do want to be trim and attractive and all these things and fit. And it's saying, no, I want you to be that. You say, well, okay. Tell you what, you know it all. You come up with other ways for me to achieve what I want to achieve. You ask it like that, and it will. It will go, oh, hang on, you really want to achieve that? You want to find out how to do it? I can show you how to get there, and you'll still be as healthy as you want to be. And that happens. You can talk to it maybe twice a day, sometimes 3 times. I've never more than 3. You're pushing it. The times that are best to do this, the first half hour after you wake up, you're still in a very reasonably unconscious state. Then, so your conscious mind is drifting here, there, and everywhere. Boom, you make your affirmation to your unconscious mind then. And it's don't worry, I'm onto it. And you go through the day, reticular activating system is going to find things, you'll see things that you can do that will actually get you on the steps to your goal, all kinds of things. The other great time to do it is just before you go to sleep. I'm sure everybody knows this. Why? Because while you're asleep, your conscious mind, it's gone. It shuts off. That's it. There is no gatekeeper that can get in the way. There is no doubts that it can start sowing. It just allows the unconscious mind to process it. And you may, straight away when you wake up, have the idea of what you're going to do from now on. It may take a couple of days. I would say that you've got to do this for a minimum of 21 days, sometimes longer, 40, maybe 3 months, whatever it is. Some people have gone as long as 6 months, but then literally look back at that 6 months. I am not that person that I was back then. It depends on what it is that you want to achieve and where you are right now at the start, as a starting point, I guess.
Of course, but it's about taking that action, whatever that action looks like. It's getting into that habit, that routine, that way of thinking, that way of being, becoming aligned with the thing that you want, and then acting on the information that comes through that's usually outside of what is logical.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
Because otherwise we're just regurgitating the same old information, aren't we? Nothing's changing.
And I would check in on that as well. Any step that you take, while you're taking the step, do you feel happy doing it?
Love that.
Do you feel happy taking this step? If not, Why not? Is there something else that you could be doing? Maybe going sideways and then coming back into the path to the top. Is there something else? Are there other ways of achieving the step that you want to get through? Or are you being told that actually the path to this goal is not something you want to do? So that's not necessarily a goal you want to achieve. Are you being told that your true purpose is being avoided? But always ask yourself, is each step great? If you feel motivated, even if the step isn't great, do you feel happy doing it, thinking like, yeah, this is something that's taking me to the next step and I can't wait for that one? If you've got those feelings, if that motivation's come to you, or if you just simply enjoy doing it, fabulous, you're on the right way. Check in with yourself. I tend not to check in if I'm feeling good. Because why? Why would I check in and allow the conscious mind to go, well, that is hard work. Oh, you don't want getting up at that time of the morning, walking the dog, all this rubbishy stuff. I don't bother. Only if I'm thinking, if I ever get that feeling, oh God, I've got to get up at 5 o'clock. If I ever get that feeling, then I've got to check in and ask, what's the problem? I have to literally ask myself. If I'm not happy, then I ask my unconscious mind, is there a better way of doing it? I'm mentioning that, by the way, because once I did do that, and it said, why don't you get up at 7 o'clock instead? It's like, yeah, I could, couldn't I?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's always that easy, but that did happen to me.
But it's a start, isn't it? And if we don't try different things, nothing will change. But I love what you said there. It's really about recognizing that our happiness is actually innate.
Yeah.
And it's about checking in when we're not happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It's so simple. So simple.
And it is, and I mean, there are techniques to make this happen. There are little programs that you can do. I learned self-hypnosis before I ever learned other hypnosis, because of something that I was involved in when I was 22 years old, and I had to learn it. And it's been an obsession ever since, really. Obsession, that's a bit of a negative word, isn't it? Except that I'm quite pleased that I'm obsessed with it, because it's got me things that I've wanted to get. So, sticking with it and not ever getting tired of it.
Well, that's the other thing. It's the meanings we assign to certain words as well, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, that can be the subject of something else that we do in another podcast.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant. Will you come on and do that one?
I'd love to, actually. Yeah.
I think we should, but we'll work out a time for that one, and we'll get that done. But I really enjoy, doing self-hypnosis stuff like that. It's become an automatic thing for me. It's almost like my unconscious mind says, put yourself into whatever trance you need. By the way, I'm not sitting in a chair with my eyes glazed. I can do that while I'm on the go. I can make suggestions now. I mean, you train yourself. Okay, keep a hold of this one, unconscious mind. I've just got to get on with this, but you know what to do. It's basically what I'm doing, and things tend to work out really well. When they don't, it'll be because I've made a poor choice. That's another thing. Take responsibility, for God's sake. Don't blame it on some outside influence. Don't ever. Okay, there's just been an earthquake and my house fell into it. Well, why did you buy a house in an earthquake zone then? You've made a bad choice. No, I'm exaggerating and being silly there, but really do seriously take responsibility. And when you take responsibility, you understand that there are better choices that you could have made, and then going forward now, you're increasing your ability to keep into that state of happiness, which is where I think Anthony Jacqueline said that to me once, and I think he says it on the hypnosis courses that they run, that what he discovered, or he really feels is the truth, that what people really want is to be happy. It's as simple as that. You come in with your anxiety, you come in with your depression, you come in with your smoking habit, or your fear of flying, or whatever it is. If we push it down to one little thing, the idea is live and be happy.
And that doesn't even need to be a choice. We just need to stop making the choices.
Yeah, exactly.
They get in the way.
I do feel that. I'm getting overexcited about it now, because happiness is everything. And you know what? We've been talking about this for 40 minutes, Jill. I think for now, that's enough. We'll probably come back to aspects of this in, other times, and we're definitely going to get together and talk about words.
I'd love that.
Words and language, and the implications that they have there. So what I'm going to say then is goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being on the podcast, listening with us, and thank you, Julie, for being here. God bless you. That was really great to have you here talking with me about that sort of thing and listening to your input and the things that are important, which I think we learned things from you, and I think we all have. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Right, I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to end this now. And so goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Catch you next time.